I am grateful for the obscurity of the opposition's argument. I first filed a bill 35 years ago to say that you couldn't fire someone because he was gay or she was a lesbian. And at the time, people were very straightforward about their opposition. Times have changed. It is no longer fashionable to say that you ought to be able to discriminate against someone based on his or her sexual orientation. So we now get other arguments. Let me say this. I have heard a number of people raise this argument that the real problem is that it says perceived. I do not believe that a single one of them would change his or her position if we were to remove that. They are opposed to the notion that gay men and lesbians, people like me, should be allowed to prove themselves on the workplace without discrimination. But that's not a good argument to make. So we get perceived as the argument, and it is not a serious one. In the first place, this argument about having to defend a negative, it's wrong both legally and factually. The burden of proof is on the complainant. No employer has to prove a negative. It is the complainant who has the hard job of proving the positive. That's why historically statutes like this, well, every time we try to protect some people against discrimination, we go through two phases. First, beforehand, we get the most absurd exaggerations of the chaotic impact it will have. After the fact, they are rarely, unfortunately, enforced very vigorously. And by the way, if this were a problem, we'd have examples of it. 19 states have laws like this on the books. And how many examples have you had of the poor, befuddled employer who is so unable to perceive that he is put on the dock? None. This is a made-up issue, made up by people who don't want to confront the real issue. And here is the real issue. There are millions of our fellow citizens, Madam Speaker, gay or lesbian, who live in fear that they could be fired because they live in states where there is no such protection. And we have had real examples of that. And what we say today is, no, you can't be fired because of that. Why is perceived in there? Because otherwise you're opening a big loophole. By the way, this notion of perceived, it is so unusual that it's in the American Disabilities Act and has been interpreted by several judges, Justice Alito, Judge McCasey, and Posner, three radicals who have enforced this. So let's not hide behind this semantic. That is not the genuine motivation for opposition to this bill on the part of anyone in this House. What they are saying is we don't want to protect working men and women from this. Madam Speaker, I was accused in the last campaign by a former member of this body of pursuing a radical homosexual agenda. Well, here it is in the House today, working, getting a job. That's what we are asking for. The right for people to go to work and be judged solely on how they work. Let's get rid of the semantic obscurantism.